You're listening to Journey with the Jays on Real 1100. Tonight we're joined by Mike Lenoir. Mike is an NBA draft prospect out of the Louisville Yellow Jackets in Texas in the basketball league. Mike led the league in assists with 11 per game and third in the league in scoring with 24 points in the game. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Mike, let's start off. So, you're 19 years old. You went straight to the pros, right into the basketball league. What made you make that decision?
I feel like what made me make that decision was in my previous year of playing prep ball, I was doing pretty good, averaging good numbers against a lot of colleges, and I feel like that helped me, and I can play pro right away. It was best interest that my dad and my coach that I played pro, and they felt that's where my game was, and that's how I felt too. So that's why we made that move.
Now, leading the league in assists at your first year in the league, how difficult was that? The difference in speed from high school down all the way to the pros?
It was very different from, it was a real game, a real long game, 12 minutes a quarter, 24-second shot clock, commercial breaks, all type of stuff. So, it was different. And the speed in the game, I had to adjust to it the first couple games. But once I got the hang of it and adjusted to it, it became sort of kind of easy for me. I started picking the game apart. So it was real good.
Now, what's the draft preparation like with the pandemic and not being able to actually work out for teams? How is it different for you than maybe somebody 2 years ago or last year?
I feel like this year would be really different due to the pandemic because, like you said, you can't go in and work out for certain teams. So I just feel like everything virtual now is kind of harder for the teams to actually see who they're dealing with from, just talking to the guys and seeing the guys work out in person. But preparation for me, it's been pretty much the same thing, eating well, working out well, staying healthy, those type of things.
Well, you can tell your teammates must love you the way you dish out the ball, that they're all sitting in the background watching you right now. That's always a good quality.
Yeah, for sure. Those guys, I couldn't have did anything beyond this show without those guys. I respect them. I got a lot of love for those guys.
Definitely. Spenser, you have some questions?
Yeah, Mike, Spenser here. Thanks for joining us tonight. I had a few quick questions for you. I guess my first one is, who is an NBA player, past or current, that you would compare your game to?
I say past NBA player I would compare my game to is Isaiah Thomas from the Bad Boys Pistons, and a current player I would compare my game to would be Chris Paul.
Okay, I like that comparison. And another quick question, obviously you don't know where you're going to be drafted. You don't know where you're going. Where are some places that you think, you'd be a great fit at? I
think one, I'd be a great fit. I like the Miami Heat because they're a young team. They're starting young. Everybody is raw. I like how they play good, hard-nosed basketball. They shoot the ball. They run and gun. So I think I like that team, but shout out to my man right there, the Knicks and Brooklyn. So I like both of those too. Really, I like any team. I'll just be grateful for whatever team pick me.
All right, I lied. I have one more question. MJ or LeBron?
Jordan.
All right. I like that answer.
Mike, I got a question for you.
Time out. You can't just skip over Kobe like that.
You know what? That's on me. I was disrespectful. I want to shout out Kobe Bean Bryant, one of the greatest to ever do it on Jordan's level, Kobe.
For sure.
I respect it. So, Mike, we were talking a little bit before the show, but, I wanted to talk about why did you choose to go to the basketball league as opposed to a place like the G League or maybe college? What was your thought process? Because obviously a lot of guys go that route. So why did you feel as though for you that the basketball league was your best option?
I felt like it was best where I fit in there. I'm not a guy that gets into the hype. I'm in a guy that's chasing my dream and, doing whatever it takes to chase my dream. So I felt like other than the G League, the basketball league was my best option and my best interest because I had people in my background that believed in me and they gave me the keys to where when I go out there and play, I can just be free and be successful. So I feel like that's why I'm in the position that I am in today.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I know the pandemic's been crazy. I know it's hard to keep in shape. So what is it that you're doing to keep in shape and keep up in the form that you were? Because I know it can't be easy.
Yeah, what I've been doing to keep in shape is my team and I, since the pandemic really hit, we never really stopped working out. We always found a way to, do something to stay in shape. So we go to the gym 3 times a week. We work out with the weights, basketball, speed and agility, strength and conditioning. And after that, on weekends now, my team, we have our own fall league called the Undiscovered League. So we have different teams, former pros, Jason Maxill, former pros that's around here in our area. They come in and they play in the league. So we play every weekend. So that's what we do to stay in shape and, stay sharp as players.
That's awesome. That's what we like to hear. I don't have any other questions with Jon. I know he mentioned your Heat, Jon, so I'm sure you got something you got to say.
Have any NBA players reached out to you and given you any advice on how the draft is going to work and how the game works once you get to the NBA level, like the speed and things like that?
Not really. I haven't heard from any NBA players, but I mean, I know players. Matter of fact, but ex-NBA player Jason Maxill. I mean, he talked to me, let me know like the speed of the game back then, but I know it changed tremendously. But at the same time, I've talked to Dwayne Wade's father. I mean, he can give me some great advice, especially dealing with, one of the best tools that ever played the game. But that's pretty much been it. But we know my coach, he has a lot of connections, a lot of people that used to be in the NBA working wise, like Bob Hill, legendary NBA coach, NBA scout, Coach Walker. So, I mean, those guys, they give me advice every day on how to take my game to the next level and what to expect.
Mike, we definitely appreciate you coming in tonight. We wish you the best of luck. We're going to look forward to November 18th, see where you go, and following you out throughout your journey in the NBA.
Thank y'all. I appreciate everything.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good one, Mike.
All right, y'all too.
Thanks, Mike.
So that was Mike Lenoir, everybody. He plays in the basketball league, NBA draft prospect. Let's go around the table. Who do you guys look for in the NBA draft that maybe is a sleeper? Spencer, you want to start?
College basketball players?
Yeah. Anybody that comes off the top of your head?
It's been a while since I've watched any of them play, so it's hard for me to come up with a sleeper. I don't have anyone right now. I like LaMelo Ball. I think he can be a game changer. I like RJ Hampton. I think he's going to go in the teens, but I like his game. I think the Nets are looking at him. Outside of those two guys, is really no one I like that much.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on someone that they can think of? I know the college season got cut short, so we didn't get a chance to see everybody. It's kind of tough.
I'll stick with old guy Mike.
I like Mike Lenoir. That's who I'd say. Mike Lenoir, man, that's my guy.
I love it. That's what we're talking about.
In-house names. That's how we got to do it. Guys that we make connections with. I'm sticking with Mike. I trust the guy.
He's forever a friend of the program.
That he is.
You also got Tyrese Maxey out of Kentucky. He's pretty good. He was on the ESPN article, Sleepers of the Draft, which I was just looking at before the show. Definitely somebody to keep an eye on. Kentucky seems to put a lot of good guys in the pros.
Anthony Edwards is the consensus number 1 right now, right? From Georgia?
I believe so, yes. Okay.
I've seen some little bit of bust potential tied to his name, but we'll see.
It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I know Wiseman's saying he doesn't want to play for the Wolves, which is interesting. I mean, I don't know. Minnesota's kind of cold. I wouldn't want to go there either because of that, but I have nothing else against the city.
Well, that's a famous Stephon Marbury, thing. He played in Minnesota and he hated it. He hated the city, and his agent requested a trade because he just did not like playing in Minnesota. And eventually he went to the Nets, and or was it the Nets or the Suns first? I don't remember which team he was traded to for. It might have been the Nets, but yeah, because Kidd was traded from the Suns to the Nets for Marbury. So yeah, I mean, not a lot of people like playing in Minnesota, right? Kevin Garnett played there forever. He's a legend there. And he hates that franchise because of, the feud that he had with the owner. So
right.
I don't know. Minnesota is an interesting place. Not a lot of guys love to play there.
Yeah, no, it's a tough city. I mean, as far as winter weather, it's not a nice place. And there's other cities that are a lot, just when you think about the winter there, and basketball, a winter sport, do you really want to be stuck in Minnesota when it's cold, it's snowy, and there's not much to do in the city itself. After you look at the mall,
really don't have a great history of winning, like, overall in that city with their sports. So, like, it's not really a town where you're like, yeah, a city has a great, history of winning. Ooh, with all their sports, like, not really. The Vikings have never won. Like the Twins blow it every year, it seems. Not really a great history of winning.
Wouldn't want to be there either with that culture. I don't know how I feel about that.
And the Wild can never get it done. They used to have really good talent. They can't get it done.
Well, also think about what Mike said when we asked him, where would he want to play? He said Miami and both New York teams. I mean, a lot of these.
So, and not to interrupt you, but he's looking to not only obviously get drafted, but he wants to go to a place where
you can fit.
When you can fit in, and it's a big place. It's a marquee place, and that's an easier way to get your name out there as opposed to going to Minnesota or somewhere smaller like that, where you can kind of get forgotten.
Right. And I'm sure if you asked 100 of these prospects, not one of them would say, I want to go to Minnesota. I want to play with the Timberwolves.
Yeah, you want to go to New York, LA, Miami, the big cities where you're more likely to get known because they'll have more televised games and things of that nature.
But is it really a good thing to come out and say you don't want to play for a city or a team? I mean,
that looks bad if you say that.
He wasn't saying that.
Not Mike, but
we're just saying generally
for a second.
If you say that in general, I feel like it makes you look like a jerk almost. Like
it depends on the talent. It depends on the talent.
Three of the four of us are Giant fans. What Eli kind of did, I mean, I kind of looked down at him for it.
Yeah, I always resented that move. I always thought that was a punk move. I'll just say a nice word on the radio, punk move.
I mean, I'm not complaining, but because it worked out. But yeah, I mean,
if you can get away with not playing where you don't want to play, then I mean, kudos to you, right? It doesn't work out for everybody. It happened to work out for Eli. I'm sure there are a bunch of scenarios where it just didn't work out for guys.
It was probably more his daddy, whispered in his ear and said, hey, why would you want to go to San Diego? You can go to New York, and then he's like, sure, why not?
Please don't call Archie Manning Eli Manning's daddy. Sounds weird.
And on that note, we're going to move on now.
Look, I'm a father. I hear that word all day. So,
So the draft set for November 18th. Basketball's been pretty quiet. Jake, anything going on in the NHL that we need to know about?
Not really much. They're continuing talks about starting in early January, but that's really it. I know recently they canceled the NHL Classic, the Winter Classic, just because of where it would place. It wouldn't fit. I was right at the end of December. It wasn't going to fit. Makes sense, obviously. It was supposed to be, I believe, the 31st. I think it was supposed to be like for New Year's or New Year's Eve. So obviously that's not happening. But that's really it. They're just still talking about trying to figure that out. And the truth is, they keep saying it's going to depend on the virus, which makes complete sense. They just don't know yet. They've had meetings to talk about it. They've had their like owners meetings and such, but there's nothing been decided. It's just like, okay, yeah, we'd like to do this, but no one has any clue yet because the truth is we barely got this season going again. They got to figure out a smart way to do the next season, but that's really it for NHL. Yep. No real news anymore.
I'm curious if they may come back with a bubble scenario again because, if you look at college football, Wisconsin, I tweeted about it today. They had to cancel their game again this week. So that's 2 weeks in a row. And, what are we going to do if that happens with a pro team? Now they're traveling through multiple cities. Or are they going to do like MLB and just play your conference or your division maybe? So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. And how they try and get everything back aligned to the regular sports seasons. If that's something that they try to do for next year, maybe shorten up this year and maybe work towards getting, 2021, 22 back to the regular October till May or beginning of June for the Stanley Cup. What do you think about that, Spenser? Oh, John.
Giving them the proper amount of time to prepare as, in regards to an off season. They need that. I mean, hockey players take a beating. You can't just have them finish up September, October, and then say, hey, in 2-3 months you're going to start again without the proper off season, which they're not going to have. So that's also a factor. There's a lot that goes into starting a season with the off season and things of that nature. So it's a long process.
Yeah, my only concern, and John, you kind of just brought it up, is the non-proper off season. It worries me because you have teams that haven't played since March. You have the teams that didn't make the playoffs at all, didn't get to play in the play-in rounds, so they haven't played since before the virus even hit, or right when they shut down. What are you going to do with those teams when it's been, closing in on a year at that point? I mean, close to it. If you start in January, you're probably about 2.5 months shy since it would be, for it to be hitting exactly 1 year, give or take. You got to really give them some time to at least get on the ice and play. I mean, a lot of these guys probably have their own rinks at home or a local rink maybe that they're able to go to. They got to play with their teammates. I mean, it's a lot.
For hockey, I always wondered with the COVID-19 pandemic, can't they alter their helmets so it covers their entire face? And when they play hockey, they're not susceptible to catching the virus on the ice?
Well, so the problem with that, I get what you're saying. They can have their face shield come down, but the problem is I've never seen it, at least, where it's going to come down to like their chest or their neck.
Yes.
By their collarbone and just stop. Like I don't think they can wear it like a turtleneck, basically, because look at a great example is the NFL. Andy Reid is one of the coaches that is doing a shield like that, right? But what they're he's using basically what a hockey player uses. But think about it. If you cut it off, you bring it down rather to like the neckline, how are they going to breathe?
Right.
So okay. I don't. And the other problem is they're on top of each other, sweating on each other basically all the time. It is a little bit difficult. I get the feeling it's going to have to come down to the bubble again, which I hope they do because that was really what worked. And you could probably do East versus West, and you could have like just two bubbles, like an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference. You'd have a decent amount of teams, and you could still play a decent amount of games of those teams. I mean, I know interdivision, you play plenty of games in your season. I think you play each team 3 or 4 times. So that's automatically, if you're playing each year, you're going to probably get 20 plus games out of just your division. Then if you're going to, out of the division, you play multiple times, you could be looking at a 50, 60 game season, which is, I mean, it's normally an 82, but you could still be looking at a decent sized season and then going to the playoffs if they did the bubble that way.
Yeah, I really think that, if they're going to try and align the seasons back where they are, they have to shorten it because they're not going to be able to play a full 80 game season. So they're going to have to, shorten it up from January to maybe April, maybe play every other day, do like what they did with the bubble. And maybe you rotate the bubble. You have, these 10 teams go here, and then we're going to ship you, we're going to move the bubbles around. You go from bubble A to bubble B, and just move it around and just have 2 or 3 different bubbles and, just keep moving teams so you get all the games in.
Yeah, that's another possibility that I'm sure they're thinking about it. I tend to think we're not that smart that we're coming up with these ideas by ourselves that they have never thought of. I'm sure it's in their mind. It's a lot. I mean, hockey's a very physical sport, just like football. We've seen what happened in football. We had plenty of cases. We're still getting new cases, not crazy amounts like we did in baseball. Obviously, we had breakouts in baseball, but we're still getting 2 or 3 cases every now and again, here and there in football. And if you don't do it properly, you'd see the same thing in hockey, if not worse, because it's close contact again.
So you're saying Gary Bettman's not listening right now? We're going to take our idea tomorrow morning and say we're going to have 3 bubbles?
Hey, you never know. He could. But I don't think so.
Gary, just remember, I said it. It was my idea. Give me some credit.
Well, hey, you know what? Here's what I'm going to say. If he does go out and come up with that plan, I'm going straight to social media and saying, excuse me, we said this last night. Where's our credit for this? Because clearly you stole it from us.
Exactly. Anything else happening in the NHL?
What?
Anything else going on in the NHL?
That's really it. Like I said, just they're negotiating. They're talking with players union, obviously, talking amongst themselves, trying to figure stuff out. But hoping for news soon, but nothing at the moment. So do you want to go to baseball next. John, I know we had some exciting news last week. Of course, right after we finished recording, we found out.
Yes, there was a controversy with Justin Turner. The Dodgers ended up winning the World Series, as we all know, and then we found out this whole mess with Justin Turner about how apparently there was reports that they thought that he had COVID, and the team knew, and he still played. And then there was other reports that they didn't find out until partially through the game, which they pulled him. And then in the celebration, he was told not to go into the field, and he pushed through anyway, and he just did whatever he wanted. And he said, I earned this. I'm going to go out and celebrate. And so there was kind of that controversy where some people thought the players already have it. Since he's been around them, they probably already have it. So what's the point? And then there's other people that thought, okay, well, they had a right to tell people about it because there's trainers and other people that come in contact with him and the players, and it's not fair to them. So it's kind of this whole big mess. I'm not really taking the side. It's not my point here. It was just a big mess that kind of overshadowed the Dodgers winning. It really took away a lot from what they did. It took a lot away from the heat that Kevin Cash was getting, which rightfully deserves. So Spenser, what do you think about that? That move by Kevin Cash, because that's been overshadowed and it should not be. He got away with one when it comes to the heat that he deserves.
What do I think about the Justin Turner story or the Kevin Cash blunder?
The Kevin Cash, first of all, the Kevin Cash move that was overshadowed by all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's just a lesson that us fans needed to see, and that lesson is analytics doesn't win ball games. It should not be solely relied upon by general managers, by coaches, by owners. It's something that coaches should use to help them make informed decisions, but you cannot remove the human element. And basically, Blake Snell was pitching the best game of his life. I mean, he was unhittable. The Dodgers guys couldn't get to him at all. And basically what happened was Cash goes, okay, you've reached your innings limit or your pitch count, and I don't want you to see this order a third time, so we're going to take you out. We're going to put in our best reliever. And the second he did that, Mookie Betts looked over at the dugout and he smiled. And he goes, oh, this game is over. It's done. We got this in the bag. Very dumb move by Cash. Obviously, I don't think he'll ever do that again. Like, if he's in this situation next year, he's not going to pull the guy who's pitching unbelievably. But it just goes to show you that these guys can't depend on just analytics. They have to factor in that human element.
I love analytics, and they're really helpful, but that's the point of them. They are only meant to be helpful, not the only way you do things. And that's the problem that Kevin Cash ran into. And what I was so upset about is you have a guy that's on fire. Now, I understand what analytics are saying. Third time around the lineup is bad. At X amount of pitches, he's going to slow down probably. That's fine. But there is one thing that is an immeasurable statistic that no stats, no analytics, no nothing will ever tell you. And Spenser, you said it's that human element. You just can't determine that. And it's the human element and really the situation. And situations are not factored into your analytics. And that's the problem with what Kevin Cash did. He didn't think about situation. He just looked at, okay, my analytics tell me X, so I'm going to do Y. It's not how it's supposed to be taken. They're supposed to be taken with a grain of salt that, okay, yes, this is what we're telling you, but here's the situation you're in. Use your best judgment. And I don't feel like he used his best judgment, because anybody that knows anything is sitting there thinking, why would you take him out? That's moronic almost. And I'm not trying to be mean, because I know he knows more than I ever will, but I could have told you not to do that. If I have my starting pitcher who's confident in his stuff, nobody can hit him, why would you take him out? Analytics don't have to tell me that. I know that. I'm smart enough to know that. And when Spenser, you mentioned what Mookie Betts did. I mean, that's the story right there. The moment you take him out, he smiles. Game is over. Even it was that moment really epitomized what happened and what would happen. The moment you saw him smile, you knew, this is not going to be good if you're a Rays fan. and it wasn't. And so if Kevin Cash is somehow listening out there, my advice to you is take your analytics, but also trust your guy and understand the situation you're in. Because as great as analytics are not what really will win games. It will help you win games, but it will not outright do it for you.
Now, I mean, Spenser, I'll put it to you. Me and you are the gamblers on the show out of the group. We will bet. So do you always look at the numbers, or are you doing what you feel? You have a hunch.
With baseball specifically, I always bet on the best pitcher. That's literally my strategy. So you're right. I'm not going with the statistics. What I'm saying is if I see that a guy who's an elite pitcher is on the mound, that other team might be better, but I'm going to go with the elite pitcher because as we've seen this year, pitching wins ball games and loses ball games.
Right. And just in general, though, when you're betting, you're looking. Are you just looking straight at numbers?
I'm going with my gut. Statistics are for nerds.
And I mean, I would think being a manager or a coach of a team, yes, analytics are important. They give you an idea, but you have to know your guys.
Yes.
You have Snell pitching the best game of his career, not the best game of the year, the best game he's ever pitched. And it's a game you have to win. You can't take him out there. Analytics are great, but there's a time and a place. This is a game 7 of a 162 game season. This is a must-win game or you're done. So I don't get it. I mean, I understand why you have analytics, but you can't make decisions solely off that in a must-win game.
And what I'm sorry, John.
I'm curious what the analytics say about bringing in a guy that's given up runs in 6 straight appearances.
I was going to say that's a good point too. What do your analytics tell you about that guy particularly? Because again, I don't need analytics to tell you that was probably not the guy you bring in. Of all your options, he's not really the guy you want out there. Probably the guy that's your weakest link, so to speak, in terms of your bullpen and pitching.
In a must-win game, I mean, where is that decision, and why would you do that?
Well, what I found so shocking was Snell's reaction after the game, because a lot of guys will just go up there and they'll say, "Listen, the manager made a decision. It is what it is. We lost." He was visually angry, and he didn't go all the way to throw Kevin Cash under the bus, but he did say, "Look, I was on a roll. I knew I could have kept going. I knew they couldn't hit my stuff. I was disappointed they took me out." You saw the look on his face when they took him out of that game. He was angry, and the cameras were on him. He knew the cameras were on him. So you don't often see that from a player. Like after a game, they're so angry at the situation, and he didn't come out and say it, but you can tell he was upset with Kevin Cash.
And
I will. God.
Oh, one more thing. So all of social media blew up when he pulled him. Then, basically all of social media jumped on it and was like, "What are you doing?" Athletes and just random people. Everybody was jumping on Kevin Cash like, "What are you doing?" And Kevin Cash was the only one in the world that didn't know it was a terrible decision.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the last 2 years we've had the greatest reactions from pitchers after, the game being over. Garrett Cole with the hat last year, not wearing the Astros cap, and then this year Snell. But getting to JT, Justin Turner, I don't know. I mean, to me, I think, you finally get to the pinnacle of your career. You win the World Series. You want to be out there and celebrating, but at the same time, it's so irresponsible because you have all those people around you. I get the wanting to be there because that may never happen again. You see guys play their whole career. Don Mattingly never made a World Series. My favorite player of all time. So I get the wanting to go out there and enjoy it, but you're putting other people's lives at risk. So I just think it was a bad move, and I hope he thought about it afterwards because he seems like a good guy. Spenser?
Yeah, I mean, it's 2020, and these are unprecedented times. People are getting married in their backyard with nobody there, and that's their wedding. So I understand how big of a moment it is for this guy in his life, but he's also got to understand that we're living in unprecedented times. You can't just do things because you want to do it. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not able to live out these events and these things that are very important to them because of the way the world is right now. So at the end of the day, I think it was a selfish decision on Justin Turner. I agree with you. I think, swallow your pride and don't go out there. Listen to the people who are telling you to stay in. And I think he made a mistake.
And not to mention his manager's a cancer survivor.
Yeah, I mean,
you're going out there when your manager's a cancer survivor and you're putting him at risk, a guy that's older and susceptible to this pandemic.
He had Hodgkin's lymphoma, Dave Roberts.
Yeah. So.
And we know JT's a good guy. Me and John, we went to the press conference earlier in the season, when he's talking about his charities and the different things he does. He's a good guy. So I'm not condemning him and saying he was, a bad person. It's just, it was a bad decision. I'm pretty sure at this point, I would hope he'd say that, I wouldn't have done it again, but I don't know. I haven't spoken to him since. But it's just a shame that he actually, he took the spotlight away from, the whole Snell incident and, the positivity of the Dodgers, winning a World Series after 32 years with some of the teams they had.
I'll play devil's advocate just for a second. This is not really how I feel, but just for the heck of playing devil's advocate, here's what I will say.
Uh-oh.
He was around them. He was around them for the entire time, and we don't know how long he may have had this virus. And I'm not saying it makes it right, but again, just to play devil's advocate, it was in an environment where he was already around them, right? And if they were going to get it, it is possible that they may already have gotten at that point. Again, not saying I believe that, just to play the devil's advocate, to play the other side for the fun of it. I could see that position, and that may have been what he was thinking. But I don't agree with it.
The only problem with that side is you have other people now on the field because it's the
celebration. I don't agree with
the photographers. I know. I'm just responding to maybe the people listening that don't know. You have the photographers, the different MLB people all around that, may not have been around the Dodgers before.
Absolutely.
So that's where it comes into play, and that's where it was wrong. But
what I was going to say is also, though, like what I really feel is it's completely wrong. I mean, how dangerous this virus is. We've spoken about that at length. We've spoken about it, the four of us, the country has spoken about it. Everybody knows how dangerous it is. And I understand that this is, the most magical moment, or one of the most magical moments, the biggest moments in your life. But you have to understand that you are just another person at that point, because you are, you just talked about how other people, people are getting married in their backyards, right? That's one of the most amazing moments of their lives, is getting married. Guess what? They're doing what they have to do to be safe. And while, it's great you won the World Series and we're all excited for you, you have to do what's safe for everybody else, because people's families were coming onto the field. I believe I saw, not a lot. It was just, wives, kids. They have not been around the team. And kind of like JB said, you don't want to get them sick, because that's really not right. And at the absolute worst, if he's coming out on that field, he absolutely cannot take his mask off if he is really going to do that. And the problem I have is, not only did he come out, he actually took his mask down. If you watch and you look at the pictures, his mask is by his chin, under his beard. And that really annoyed me, because not only did you make the conscious decision to put other people at risk by just being out there, you did it and made it so they can easily now get infected, because you don't even have the protection of a mask. And that is, again, I know I played devil's advocate because I could, but I was hot and heated, and it bothers me, because it's really not the right thing to do. And you've got to look at it as not I'm a baseball player that just won the World Series. You have to look at it as, I'm a person that is sick. I can seriously infect other people. What should I do as a human being? What is my my civic duty, essentially, at that point? And that's how you have to look at it. And he didn't. And it's not what he was supposed to do. And baseball should come down on him about that. And I'm waiting for them to, but I'm afraid they're not going to. But I personally feel like, what? He did that after being told he shouldn't. There should be some sort of repercussion for that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on that, Jake. Anything else in
All
baseball, John?
Yeah. So actually, the Gold Glove winners were announced tonight for both sides at the AL and NL. for the so I just want to go down the list of all the Gold Glove winners, give them their props. One Atlanta Braves player did win a Gold Glove. So we'll just start off with the first base, American League, Evan White for the Mariners, Anthony Rizzo for the Cubs. Congrats to them. Second base, Cesar Hernandez for the Indians. Colton Wong for the Cardinals. For shortstop, J.P. Crawford won a Gold Glove. Javier Baez, congrats to him for the Cubs. Is that Isaiah Kiner Falefa for the Rangers? I don't know how to say his name, but he won a Gold Glove. Arenado, of course, that guy's got like a whole bookshelf of Gold Gloves. Alex Gordon, which I believe he's going to retire this year, so he went out with a Gold Glove. Tyler O'Neill for the Cardinals. Lewis Robert in center field for the White Sox. White Sox were pretty good this year. Trent Grisham for the Padres won in center field Gold Glove. Joey Gallo surprisingly won a Gold Glove for the Rangers. Not a guy that's necessarily known for his glove. Mookie Betts won one, of course. Mookie Betts. Tucker Barnhart, Cincinnati. He's a pretty good defender. Berto Perez for the Indians at catcher. And then pitchers. Griff Canning for the Angels won a Gold Glove. And Max Fried for the Atlanta Braves won a Gold Glove. So those are your list of Gold Glove winners announced tonight on Tuesday, November 3rd. And then they also unveiled their MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and a whole bunch of other award finalists. So they didn't necessarily give out the winners yet. So tune into next week's show. And we'll kind of unveil those as well. That's all I have for the MLB.
All right. Well, Spencer, we got plenty of NFL stuff to talk about. So Spencer, what do you got for us this week?
All right, gentlemen, I want to start with the Monday Night Football game that was played recently against the Buccaneers and the Giants. The Bucs won 25-23. Wild back and forth game. Controversial ending as a flag was called by the refs for pass interference on a 2-point conversion that the Giants attempted to tie the game. But then after the refs got together, they decided that it wasn't pass interference. They picked up the flag, and the game ended in a Bucs win. JB, I know you were hot about this entire ordeal. Talk to us. What really had your you going with this end of the game for the Giants Bucs?
So it's not so much the end of the game; it's the whole game. This is the most complete game that this team has played from point A to the end, from start to finish, and yet we still have the same problems. The offensive line stepped up; they were blocking, they were running the ball. Without Saquon Barkley, one of the best running backs in the NFL, who's out all year, we got Morris running the ball. Not Joe Morris for you Giant fans, if there's any down here in Atlanta. We got Morris running the ball. He's getting some good yardage. And yet, Danny Jones is back there throwing to the wrong team again and again. You can't do that and win games. You had protection this week. There's no excuse for it. You're going backwards. He's not going to be the answer long term. And they gave up points at the end of the half because of the turnover. It's just a bad way to play. And you're not going to win games with it. You can't say, the penalty cost us the game. No, the interception cost the game. It changed the whole momentum of it. Jake?
I have defended Daniel Jones for every single week up until this week. This is the week where I can finally say it is 100% his fault. Defense stepped up, and I'm not going to say they shut down the Bucs because that's not true. But they did keep them in check. For a really strong Bucs team, they did keep them in check and kept the Giants in the game, which was really, really impressive. So kudos to them. The offensive line also stepped up, as JB just mentioned. Jones had protection. He had time back there. He could make his reads and make his plays. It came down to his decision making, and it had me sick to my stomach because there were 3 plays that made me upset in this game. 2 interceptions, okay? Both of them are the same story it keeps playing out every week. It's real simple. Take the sack, take the intentional grounding, or throw it out of bounds if you can reach it. And he most likely can't reach that out of bounds. So really the first 2 options, I'm okay with either. I'm really okay with that. Do not throw the ball down the open field. That is the only thing you're not supposed to do. And I cannot blame the offensive line at that point, only because It is not on them. He had the time. He chose to get out of the pocket and make a stupid play. It is not that hard. I can make a better decision. That's number one. And then that was rather the first two issues, because those are one and the same. Those two interceptions, same stupid boneheaded decisions. Then the last play. I am upset with the refs, but I am actually more upset with Jones yet again, only because Jones had the easiest pass of his entire career standing in front of him. Again, I could have made that play with the amount of time he had on that throw. All he had to do, the moment that Lewis turns his head and has separation, I mean, literally, Lewis turns his head, he's got separation. Throw it then. That way, the defender can't reach Lewis in time and stop the pass. What did Jones do? He fakes, he takes a second, and then he throws. And because he took the time to throw, the play did not end up in a two-point conversion. And that is on Jones. Pass interference I was upset about, but I see why they took it back, because the ball reached the same time as the defender did. It was a simultaneous play. So I see where they were coming from. I'm not agreeing with it, but I see what they were seeing. But regardless, I put that on Jones. Make a good pass. You're an NFL quarterback. It's not that hard. I can do it. It's just inexcusable stuff. And it's things like this that get me so upset and make me feel like he's just not going to be the franchise quarterback. Up until this week, I felt like there was potential, and I could give him some credit because it wasn't all his fault. This week, I have nothing. It is on Jones for what he did. It was poor decisions on poor decisions lost the Giants this game.
Yeah, here I'm a Giants fan. Here's my PSA to all Giants fans. If it's a close game and you see the Giants playing well in spurts, expect them to lose, because they're not a good football team. They haven't been a good football team for about 4 or 5 years now, and they don't have the tools to close out games like that. You saw it last week in Philadelphia. You saw it this week in the Meadowlands against the Bucks. Daniel Jones is not a clutch quarterback. In fact, he's more likely to make a mistake than make the right play. So that's my PSA. Take emotion out of it. Expect them to lose close games, and you won't be so upset at the end of a Giants game. John?
Yeah, Jake said it perfectly. Daniel Jones, it wasn't even that he was trying to look a safety off. Wasn't like he was looking at Golden Tate or somebody like that on the other side. As soon as he called hike on that 2-point conversion, he looked right at Lewis and he hesitated. He looked right at Lewis, hesitated. Defender got there as he threw the ball, and it was like, why don't you just throw it? You looked at Lewis, who's wide open, then the defender's like a couple feet away. You throw a good ball, there's no chance the defender getting that. And he hesitated, and I'm like, what are you doing, Jones? Like, he has the tools, he has the talent, but for some reason he thinks too much and he hesitates, and you could see it like the ESPN analyst had mentioned during the game. You could see the gears kind of grinding in his head, and it's not, hey, I know what I should do. It's, hey, what should I do? I'm thinking about A, B, C, and D. But as an NFL quarterback, you have to already know what the answer is. You shouldn't be thinking. Like, I just don't get it. Like, and I saw an article today that they gotta move on from him, and they gotta draft another guy. And until Gettleman goes, it's not going to happen.
I want to talk about the other team in New York, the 0-8 Jets. We haven't spoken about them a ton on this radio show because they're so bad, but I had a great analogy I was thinking about. So are you guys all familiar with SpongeBob SquarePants, one of the greatest shows of all time?
Of course.
Who is it?
So the Jets are like the chum bucket, and Sam Darnold is basically like if SpongeBob, that episode where SpongeBob works at the chum bucket, yes. Sam Darnold is SpongeBob. He's a pretty good quarterback. He knows how to play the position. I think he's better than Daniel Jones, but when Plankton, Adam Gase, is your manager, your team's going to be terrible, your production's going to be terrible, and no one's going to want to watch you play football. So that's my analogy for the 0-8 Jets. It's like the chum bucket with Sam Darnold.
You bring up the Jets. They actually mentioned that they want to extend Adam Gase after the season today.
Good for them.
They mentioned that they want to extend him and keep him after the season. What is going on? It makes no sense. I don't get it. I mean, great for us. I mean, that's fine. The Jets can stay terrible, but why in the world would you mention that you want to extend him and keep him after? I don't get it. I do not get it.
JB, what do you think about the 0-8 Jets?
I'm glad that they're trading their chips away for nothing to contenders. Le'Veon Bell in Kansas City, which good for him. He got to get out of the wasteland of the Jets organization. I felt when he signed with them, I couldn't believe it. I don't know. I guess maybe nobody was offering him what he was looking for. But the Jets just have a way of taking really special players and finding ways to destroy their careers, a.k.a. butt fumble. Mark Sanchez forever will be known as butt fumble because nobody else that could have happened to. Mark Sanchez, when he was in college, was a really great prospect. Sam Darnold, the rate he's going, like you said, he's got some talent. He's not a horrible quarterback. But playing for the Jets, he's not going to get anywhere, especially with gas. Jake?
I love the analogy, Spencer. That was made my week. That was fantastic. And it's not wrong. I don't know why the Jets would want to re-sign Gase. I mean, the only thing I can assume is they must be gluttons for punishment and just want all of their fans to suffer because I'm not one to be that mean to a coach. I know it's a hard job, but he's clearly not the guy. I mean, I don't care who you are. You could look and see, the coach has the team at 0-8. You don't have to know anything about sports and could say, clearly the coach must be doing something wrong along with the rest of the team. Why would you bring him back? You go 0-8. I don't care if you win the rest of your games and go 8-8. It doesn't matter. You started 0-8. That's terrible. There's no reason to bring him back in a million years.
I do want to point out that in 2013, when Adam Gase was the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning had a great season. So, I mean, take that for whatever it is. 7 years ago, Adam Gase had a good season as an offensive coordinator with Peyton Manning, who happens to be a pretty good all-time quarterback.
Two things.
Yeah.
Two things I want to just quickly say about that. First of all, that was 7 years ago. A lot has changed in 7 years, including the fact that we're now in a world pandemic. Second of all, that was with Peyton Manning. And I'm not saying it was all him, but Peyton Manning definitely had a part in that. And actually, one more thing I just realized I thought about, that was Gase as an offensive coordinator, not as a head coach. Coordinator, very different from head coach, very different responsibilities. And I know you know that, but it had to be said that 7 years ago with an amazing quarterback and a completely different position.
I want to apologize to you and the listeners because when I said that, I was being sarcastic.
I know you want to move on, but like the Jets have an opportunity to get a guy potentially like an Eric Bieniemy in the offseason. You have a chance you could try and lure Jim Harbaugh away from Michigan, who's not doing great there. You could try and lure a guy like that, and he likes to rebuild, franchises. It's what he's done in the past. You have a lot of guys that are going to be available in the offseason, and you're extending Gase. I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm just saying.
Michigan will probably be very happy to get rid of him because he doesn't win the big game. Just lost against Michigan State when they shouldn't have.
But he's a great NFL coach.
Maybe Michigan could hire Adam Gase.
They could maybe work on a trade.
Yeah, there you go. I've never seen a college for NFL trade. But
First
sure.
for everything.
The Jets could, build a building or, make a facility there for the football team. It could be done.
I do like the idea of hiring Eric Bieniemy. I think he's going to be a head coach in this league very soon. Final football topic, guys, and I saw this being talked about on a lot of sports shows. So the Chargers had an epic collapse. They've kind of made that a routine thing this year, but they lost in the fourth quarter. JB, I know that game really had you hot and bothered, but Drew Lock came back, beat him. Justin Herbert still looked pretty good, though. And the other rookie quarterback in the league, Joe Burrow, upset the Tennessee Titans. And that was a big win. So, Tua Tagovailoa, John, congrats on his big win. He's only played one game, and he didn't have to do a lot. So I want to talk to you guys. Who do we think right now, after 8 weeks, is the better rookie quarterback? Is it Justin Herbert or is it Joe Burrow? JB, let's start with you.
I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. He's setting some phenomenal records. You can't blitz against him. You know, he's doing some phenomenal things. The only guys that are up there ahead of him, you know, right now, when you look at some of these stats, are Roethlisberger. You know, I just think what he's doing is just amazing. Not taking anything away from Burrow. Burrow is doing really well too. They're both performing excellent, but it's become a young quarterbacks league. Look at who the top quarterbacks in the league are. Take away Breeze and Brady, Mahomes, Jackson, Allen up in Buffalo. Tua now playing. Great weekend for the family last weekend too. Burrow, it's all young quarterbacks. Baker, all within 2-3 years, and you know it's amazing to see. What about you, Jake?
I'm going with Herbert as well. Look, Burrow is good, but Herbert has been incredible in less games, mind you. They have the same amount of interceptions, which is 5, but more importantly, Herbert has more touchdowns at 15 versus Burrow's 11. He has only about 400 yards less, and he has a QBR of 76.4. Herbert has looked really, really impressive, and I understand he has more to work with. You know, he's got better receivers, obviously, on that team, a guy like Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry. I understand that, but just he's been really phenomenal, and I like Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be a star in this league, but I got to go with Herbert. He has really been impressive, and it's showing why he was so highly scouted just a few years ago. He's showing everybody that, yeah, Burrow had a great year, and obviously he earned the number 1 pick from a great year. But Herbert is just as good, and in my opinion, right now, better.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go next because I'm the opposite on this one. I think Burrow is playing better. I mean, Herbert's in an easier, like when it comes to defensively, the defenses that Herbert faces, those defenses are easier to go up against in the AFC West. Burrow's going up against the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers 4 times a year. That's 4 of his 16 games against the Steelers and Ravens. And the guy's played really well. He just beat the Titans and beat them handily. It wasn't even close. I know the score ended up being a little closer, but the Bengals were the better team by far in that game. And the Titans are a team that could go to the Super Bowl this year, and the Bengals destroyed them. And the Bengals have Burrow has a lot less to work with on the offensive side, and the defense is absolutely putrid. Whereas the Chargers have a lot of talent on that defense. They haven't put it together, and they've blown a lot of games. I think Burrow's really done a lot more with what he has than Herbert has with what he has. Because Herbert should be winning more games. I know that's not all on him because, guys drop the ball and they miss, kicks and the defense gives up the drive they shouldn't have given up to Locke. But for what Burrow has in the division he's in, that black and blue division, Burrow to me has been more impressive. I mean,
he's only played 1 game against the Ravens so far this year.
But
he hasn't played the Steelers at all.
He plays them 4 times a year. He'll play them.
We're talking about what have they done now? Not what do you expect?
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
what has he done today? He's only played 1 out of 4 games.
Okay, he played against the Steelers and he played against the Ravens. Those are two defensive. He
hasn't played the Steelers yet.
I thought they played the Steelers. Okay, but they do play them 2 times a year.
15.
A 7-0
about the future. We're not talking about the future. Who's going to be better?
Okay, they have the same amount of victories, right?
I think
have the Chargers beaten and who have the Bengals beaten?
John, I think if you're going to tote 2 wins for Burrow, you tote the Browns loss, which he played great, and you tote the Titans win. Burrow's looked excellent. I'll say this. I like Herbert better. It's very close for me. I have a friend who's a Chargers fan, and basically he tells me that Anthony Lynn has to go. The head coach of the Chargers, he's worn out his welcome. He loses a lot of close games. You can't put that on Herbert. I think once the Chargers get a real coach, you're going to see Herbert kind of get a lot better. and he's going to win a lot more football games. I think Burrow and Zach Taylor are essentially tied at the hip right now. Taylor's going to be the coach for the foreseeable future, and I think Burrow's gotten something special there in Cincinnati, especially with T. Higgins. They look like they have a real connection. But for me, what Herbert's been able to do through the air, week in, week out, it's just been slightly more impressive than Burrow.
How many wins would the Bengals have if Andy Dalton's still their quarterback? If Joe Burrow wasn't the guy, they'd have 0. They'd have none. They wouldn't have any right now. If Herbert wasn't the quarterback, Chargers would still have 2 wins.
Interesting take.
Just saying. I'm just saying, think about that. Think about what the Bengals would be without Joe Burrow. Think about what the Chargers would be without Herbert.
But if we took Herbert and put him on the Bengals, they'd still have the same 2 wins.
I think the Chargers would have more wins. If
Really?
Because Burrow, he knows how to lead.
No,
Herbert's losses are not his fault. It's his defense collapsing. If you look at his losses, he's played well and done his job.
He was a big reason they lost that game against the Broncos.
Look up his numbers against the blitz.
Some bad interceptions.
And no, look at his numbers against the blitz. He's by far the best rookie in history right now.
John, did Herbert hurt you when you were younger? It's not like you had a vendetta against him.
I don't believe in him as a prospect. I think
Really?
I don't believe he's the real deal.
Wow. John, let me
put up
tell
the
you.
stats, but stats don't tell you everything. Like we said about baseball with the analytics, they don't necessarily tell you everything. There's also an eye test, and so far I haven't
He
quite
passes the eye test too.
I've seen it from Burrow. Burrow's a real deal. He's just on a really bad team that's selling their pieces.
Okay.
I mean, you don't see the Chargers selling their pieces. You see the Bengals selling away one of their best defensive players.
I don't know. I think we're going to leave it at that, guys.
Okay.
But, a big thank you to Mark Berry, AMG Music, for the music this week, as usual. Spenser, you want to go around and tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Sa42. I host 2 podcasts on Twitter as well. The Last Resort at Resort_podcast and at Fireside Nets.
You can find me, guys, on Twitter at Jake_Malik. You can also find me on Scouting Giants. Look us up on Facebook or YouTube, I believe we have. Actually, we're on another channel. We are basically on a brother or sister account, rather, Pigskin Nut, where we're crazy about football. So you can find the Scouting Giants there. That's it for me, JB.
So I'm on Twitter, JB_the program. Also do the program on the Believe Network. Great interview show. And the Carousel NFL pregame show. I actually cover the Chargers, so John better realize Herbert's by far better than his boy Joey Burrow. But go ahead, John. Where can we find you?
You can find me Perch Sports Talk on Podbean. You can obviously find me on Real 1100 on TuneIn, iHeart. Then you can also find me on the Carousel. You can go to YouTube and find that. You can go to Facebook and find that as well. And I cover the Baltimore Ravens for that.
And soon to be on diaper duty, I heard.
Yes, soon to be on diaper duty for 2 kids, not just 1.
So this has been another episode of Journey with the Jays. We thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, we're on Real 1100, Facebook, Real 1100, Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m., Facebook Live and YouTube on Thursdays, on Tuesdays at 8:30. It's been fun, guys. We'll catch you next time.